When Daniel and Maya moved into the quiet neighborhood of Ashwood Lane, they thought they'd found their dream home. It was an old two-story brick house that had been on the market for years. The price was almost suspiciously low, but the couple chalked it up to luck. On their first night, they noticed how silent the street was. No dogs barking, no kids playing, just silence. Before bed, Maya swore she heard footsteps upstairs, even though the boxes were still packed and they hadn't moved anything in. Daniel laughed it off. Old houses creak. But at 3 in the morning, both of them woke to the sound of heavy breathing coming from the hallway. When Daniel opened the door, the hall was empty, but the air was cold enough that his breath came out in clouds. The next morning, Maya introduced herself to the woman across the street. The woman smiled politely, but her face tensed when Maya mentioned which house they'd bought. "Nobody stays long there," she muttered. Maya asked why, but the woman just shook her head. Later, Daniel tried talking to another neighbor. That man told him quietly, "Strange things happen in that house. People move in, they move out, sometimes in the middle of the night." Daniel wanted to laugh, but deep down, he remembered the sound of breathing in the hallway. That night, while carrying boxes upstairs, he saw something out of the corner of his eye, a shadow darting across the landing. He rushed to check, but there was nothing. Maya was in the kitchen. He hadn't told her what the neighbor said. While unpacking, Daniel noticed a locked door near the kitchen that they hadn't seen before. The key was in the drawer, rusted but still turning. The basement smelled of damp earth, as though it had never been aired out. Old shelves lined the walls, stacked with broken jars and boxes. Maya spotted a bundle of yellowed newspapers. The headlines chilled her. "Family found dead in Ashwood home." The photos were blurred, but the address was theirs. Before she could read more, Daniel called her over. On the concrete floor, drawn in chalk, was a circle filled with symbols neither of them recognized. It looked old, smudged and faded, but still powerful. Just as they were staring, the basement light flickered out, and they heard the sound of someone whispering their names in the dark. Daniel brushed off the basement incident as some prank by teenagers who might have broken in years ago. Maya wasn't convinced. While cleaning the attic, she found a dusty photo album. Inside were black and white photos of families who had lived there before them. Some smiled stiffly for the camera, others looked uneasy. But in almost every picture, there was someone else, a tall figure in the corner, blurred, as if moving. No face, just a shadow. As Maya flipped to the last page, she froze. The final photo was dated only 5 years ago, showing a family of 4. Behind them, the same shadowy figure loomed. Across the bottom, written in shaky handwriting, were the words, "We can't leave him." One evening, Daniel came home late from work. Maya was waiting at the kitchen table, pale and shaken. She held out her arm. Red scratches ran from her wrist to her elbow. "I was in the shower," she whispered. "Something clawed me." Daniel wanted to believe it was an accident, but the marks were too deep, too deliberate. That night, while they tried to sleep, a sound echoed through the walls like fingernails dragging across wood. The noise circled the house, moving from room to room. Just when Daniel thought it had stopped, a loud thud shook the wall right behind their bed. He turned on the light. Carved into the plaster were 3 fresh scratches, deep and raw, as if made by unseen hands. Desperate for answers, Maya went to the town's small library. In the archives, she found records of the house. It was built in 1924 by a man named Elias Crow, a self-proclaimed spiritualist. He had held seances in the basement, claiming to contact the dead. Several families who lived there after him reported strange deaths, falls, drownings, sudden illnesses. Each time, the house went back on the market, cheaper than before. The librarian leaned closer and whispered, "People say Crow never left. His spirit feeds on the living." That night, Maya told Daniel everything. He laughed nervously, but deep down he felt the same chill he'd felt on the first night when something breathed outside their door. At 2 in the morning, Maya woke to the sound of a child crying. She followed it to the hallway. where the air felt heavy and cold. "Hello?" she whispered. The crying stopped. Then, just beside her ear, a small voice said, "Help me." Maya screamed, waking Daniel. They searched the house, but found nothing. The next day, Daniel checked the basement again. In the dust, tiny footprints led from the chalk circle to the stairs, as though something had climbed out. He locked the basement door, but the crying returned every night. Sometimes it was laughter instead. Maya grew weaker as the days passed. She barely ate, her eyes hollow. One evening, Daniel found her standing in the basement doorway, whispering in a voice that wasn't hers. "He says we can stay forever," she muttered. Daniel pulled her away, but she fought him, her strength unnatural. Later, she admitted she didn't remember it. Daniel started sleeping in the living room, afraid of what might happen while he slept beside her. One night, he woke to find Maya standing over him, her face blank, holding a shard of broken glass in her hand. Daniel knew they couldn't stay. He packed bags and begged Maya to leave with him. She resisted, insisting, "He won't let us go." But Daniel dragged her to the car. As he turned the key, the engine sputtered and died. Every light in the house behind them flickered on at once, glowing an unnatural yellow. The front door slammed open, and cold air poured out like a breath. Maya screamed, clutching her head. "He's inside me!" Daniel carried her back to the car, but the locks clicked shut on their own. The shadow stood in the driveway now, tall and featureless. Daniel pounded the windows, but it was no use. The next morning, neighbors noticed the car still in the driveway. By afternoon, it hadn't moved. When police finally entered the house, they found it empty. Daniel and Maya were never seen again. Only their belongings remained, neatly placed back in the rooms as if they'd never left. In the basement, the chalk circle was fresh again, glowing faintly as though newly drawn. And in the photo album, a new picture had appeared. Daniel and Maya, standing stiffly in front of the house. In the corner, the shadow loomed behind them, clearer than ever. The words beneath it read, "We can't leave him.